The first time he walked in, he was wearing a pair of baggy tracksuit pants that looked like an old set of hand-me-downs and a hoodie that looked like he'd outgrown 2 years ago. It was an unusually busy Tuesday afternoon, and he'd been standing in a small queue in the shop for the last 10 minutes, patiently waiting for someone to go and serve him. Our store was filled with people, browsing for the latest phones, and just going about the usual shopping. And to everyone, he was just another guy. But to me, I knew exactly who he was. Paul Pogba. At the time, only he probably knew it, but he was about to become a future global superstar. Millions upon millions of social media followers, World Cup winner, Champions League and European Championship finalist, as well as multiple-time winner of Serie A. If you were to name those accolades to any footballer who has that resume today, they wouldn't be able to go anywhere without being swamped for attention. Yet, here he was, standing in the middle of the store with his old tracksuit that didn't fit, waiting for service. Humbling. I finished serving the customer I was busy with, then walked straight up to him. This was 2010. Paul was a formidable player in the Manchester United Academy, working his way into the first team, and everyone knew he was ready to make the next step. He had started to make the right headlines for his dazzling performances as a rising star. Still not enough to be noticed if you weren't a die-hard United fan like myself, which is the only reason I knew who he was, and I was well aware of his potential. I greeted him, he was polite and a little shy, and wanted to get a BlackBerry 9320 phone on contract. I explained to Paul that he had to be over 18 years old to get one, and would have to bring in his mum to put it in her name, and then we could add his payment details for the monthly debit order. He was a bit annoyed that I couldn't assist him there and then. He insisted that since he would be paying for it himself, why would his mother need to come in? It was a good point, but those rules are in place to protect youngsters to prevent them from using credit irresponsibly. Paul eventually came back on a Saturday with his mother and his brother, Matthias Pogba. Again, after a long wait, we sat down and put everything in place for him. It was a humbling experience because Paul hadn't quite broken through yet. He had a promising future, but I knew what his potential was as I had spent countless hours watching his highlight reels on the internet, and Sir Alex Ferguson frequently spoke effusively about him. We discussed a range of subjects, from his favorite football team, which was Barcelona, to his favorite football player at the time, who was Didier Drogba. We even got into an awkward debate about who should be top goal scorer in the league that season between Rooney and Drogba, and Paul was doing his best to back Didier. Of course, we spoke about Messi versus Ronaldo. It was the kind of access you probably would struggle to get with him today, unless if you're Sky Sports or a huge news channel. We were debating everything football related, and to be honest with you, after spending almost 2 hours with him, he was just a boy with big dreams. Paul's family demonstrated extreme patience whilst they got his phone. His mom, Yeo Moriba, asked all the questions you'd expect from a mother. She signed his contract, he took his new BlackBerry with him, and he left. We formed a bit of a relationship during the short time he stayed in Manchester, until he eventually signed for Juventus in 2012, and his career really started to take off. Paul went on to win every single major honor at club and international level with France, and his rise to stardom has been inspirational. What I'd like to highlight is when Paul walked into the store that day. He was just another young man with dreams and huge ambitions to conquer the world. Paul spoke about winning the World Cup with France that day sitting next to me. He was a youngster who didn't show any fear. Nobody around him gave him the time of day, but yet he was working diligently on himself to become a global superstar. I was sitting in my flat in Johannesburg 6 years later when the news broke that Paul Pogba had re-signed with Manchester United for a world record transfer fee of 105 million euros. As I sat there, watching the cameras, chasing him at Manchester Airport as he made his way to his medical, I just felt it was ironic that Paul was back in the same city 6 years later with the same cameramen and people 6 years earlier would have simply walked past him and wouldn't even have given him the time of day. But now they were desperately chasing him, trying to be the first to get his picture, confirming his signing back in Manchester. His photo, holding a United shirt, was being waited for anxiously by millions of fans on social media, and when it finally got released, it blew up the internet. In life, you may not be where you want to be today, but you're working hard towards your goals. The results may not be showing, but it's important to make sure you continue building daily towards your goals and that you never stop dreaming. Secondly, always have the courage to speak of where you're looking to go to. I saw Paul standing alone, looking unfashionable, as if he'd been dressed with the remains from the sales section out of a bargain clothing store. But here he was, 6 years later, being paraded on the Man United Instagram page, looking like a rock star and dabbing in front of millions of fans for his official announcement. Your life can turn around at the drop of a hat. Nobody in that cell phone shop that day would have ever put money on Paul achieving what he's achieved so far in his career, except for him. Nobody in the phone shop that day believed they were waiting in a queue with a man who was about to score the winning goal for France in a World Cup final. But he did. So don't stand and wait for anyone's permission to achieve your dreams. As long as in your mind you can visualize success, put the blinkers on, fight every day to be a little bit better, and ignore whatever limitations anyone wants to set for you. Good luck on your journey to the top, and never give up.